Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And real quick at the beginning, if you like real still historical ships, you should most definitely check out yesterday's video where I visited the USS Kidd, the real still ship in real life. If you are interested in history or wanting to see like what these ships look like in real life, definitely check out that video. With that out of the way, today's video. As I'm sure most of you are aware, last week Wargaming released a dev blog within just a stack of buffs coming to quite a few ships, some ships that had been waiting for buffs for quite some time, especially ships like the Zao, and then some of the Italian battleships got some more love finally. But in my opinion, there's a couple of ships that missed out on getting some buffs that they do so desperately need, and those are the ships we're going over in today's video. So these are my top 5 ships that need buffs, and well, Wargaming, they quite desperately need them. So let's go ahead and get on into it. Coming in at number 5 is a ship that we talked about last week, and that is the Tier 8 Premium German battleship, the Anhalt. Now, the Anhalt is a ship that was released and very quickly forgotten about. In my video, we talk about some of her strengths and weaknesses, and how, well, probably due to these weaknesses, she was quickly dropped by many of the players. And keep in mind too, this is a Tier 8 premium ship that you have to pay $50 to get. Almost the price of a AAA game, and it's kind of frustrating to play. Now, there are some situations that definitely do help this ship perform well, like games that do actually happen at a closer range than many higher tier games. Once you get close, it's kind of hard to miss with 15 guns, but man, the dispersion on these 15 guns makes me think about the pre-German battleship buff back before they got the American battleship dispersion ellipse. So yeah, imagine that with 15 guns. That's incredibly frustrating, but it's kind of workable because she does have a 30-second flat reload time with 15 guns. Another big frustration is the speed. This ship has a base top speed of 25 knots. And if you stack, brisk and the speed flag, you can maybe get that, I think, to like 28, 29 knots, which is still slow by Tier 8 standards. So you have a battleship, a German battleship, that has the potential to be a pretty decent brawler, but it's not fast enough to really do anything. And keep in mind too, this is a battleship that if a flank falls, and even if you have the speed flag equipped, you're probably not going to be able to get out of there in time. Now, most Tier 8 battleships can go around 32, 34-ish knots, which, while isn't blazing fast, it's typically fast enough to get out of a bad situation once you start seeing it turn into a bad situation. But the Anhalt can't at all. So what does she need? I think she needs a slight buff either to her dispersion or to her sigma. And again, I'm talking about very slight here because again, she does have a, 30-second reload time on 15 guns. So you don't need to do anything too crazy there. But I think that would help cut back on some of the frustration, and a very slight speed enough, maybe like 2 or 3 knots. She'd still be amongst the slowest Tier 8 battleships if you gave her a slight 2 or 3 knot buff to her top speed. That would just allow you to be able to start to leave situations when they turn south. So keep in mind too, this means the ship's top speed base would be like 27 knots or 28. With the speed flag, again, is barely touching 30. And then with brisk, which is only active when you're undetected, you'd maybe be a little bit over like 31, 32, if that. Again, that's only when you're undetected in a German battleship that's going to be detected most of the round. So I think just those slight buffs there would help out that ship quite a bit, and you'd probably actually see more of them in game because, again, like was the whole point of last week's video, you don't see the ship in game barely at all. Alright, going on down to number 4, we have the Tier 10 Techline Italian battleship, the Colombo. So the Colombo is a ship that is It's something alright. It is a ship that doesn't really need too much done to it in order for it to be more comfortable in my opinion, which is why she's at the number 4 spot. The main thing about the Colombo is her reload time and her accuracy. Now, the Colombo does make up for her terrible accuracy with the fact that, like the Anhalt, she has a large number of guns. She has 4 guns per turret, 4 turrets, so she has a grand total of 16 15-inch guns. Obviously, you're going to be fighting SAP most of the time here, and yeah, it's something alright when it does connect. But it doesn't really connect that often. Because in order for it to connect often, you either have to, 1, get a good roll with RNG, or 2, get close enough to ensure that most of your shells hit target. Now, I don't have to tell you guys that in today's World of Warships, getting close is not something that is easily doable. You have mini games that are over in like 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. Well, really, they're over by like the 5-minute mark because like half of your DDs are already dead before you've even seen the enemy DDs. So, yeah. But you have those games that end very quickly that you don't really get the chance to get in close range, which is why I like Convoy so much right now, because there's a lot more close range engagement in that than in random battles. But anyway, and because of that, of course, the Colombo is stuck in the back trying to hit targets at range that she might be landing, you know, a handful of shells here and there, but she has a very, very long reload time, 36-second reload time, which is and if you want to get that down to like 33 seconds, you got to take the reload module, which means you can't take the range module, which means you're stuck with her base main battery gun range, which, of course, she's no sniper, so, yeah. So, you're stuck with a ship with a longer than average reload time, granted, again, yes, with 16 guns, but with 16 guns that really struggle to hit at range, and if you want to get close, well, you gotta kind of, you know, almost throw your ship away in today's World of Warships if you want to get close in some of these matches that last, you know, a handful of minutes. So what she needs is a slight reload buff, and you can share it down to like 34, 33 second space, to where when you take the module, you're at 30 seconds. And you're still, keep in mind, you're still taking the module to get your guns down to a 30-second reload. So now you have quicker reload, but you're still stuck at this very short main battery gun range. And if you want to take the range mod and have, you know, normal tier 10 battleship range, you're stuck with a longer reload. So I think it would balance out, all in all, if you want to go that route, or give her a slight buff to her accuracy. You know, a slight Sigma buff, a slight dispersion buff, and that would make the longer reload more tolerable if I could actually hit a good amount of shells most of the time. Now, I understand you can't make it to the point to where, you know, you're railing the ships with 16, 15-inch SAP shells. I understand that, but just a little bit of love to the Colombo to make her a little bit more tolerable in today's World of Warships. I mean, there are, of course, plenty of examples of this thing managing to get in close and do some, you know, absolutely crazy stuff with its main battery guns, but with the way that the game's going, unless they manage to, you know, kind of make a U-turn with the meta at higher tier, it's just going to get more and more frustrating for the Colombo in the future. Alright, going on down to number 3, we have another Italian boy. We have the tier 10 Italian DD, the Regolo. They might be thinking, Sealord, this ship got a buff in the dev blog. She has a longer main battery gun range now because she can take the reload mod now. No, I'm sorry, the range mod now. That's true. You know what? It's still terrible. So what happened with the Regolo is that the formula for the Italian DDs is that they had a longer reload on their main battery guns than other DDs because the alpha of the SAP shells is so high that even with a much longer reload than other DDs, they could still out DPM them just through the sheer alpha of the SAP. The thing is, by the time you start getting to like tier 8, 9, and 10, the other DDs at this point in their tiers, because we're talking about higher tier DDs here, they've caught up with the DPM of their guns, well, the RPM of their guns. Their RPM is getting higher and higher and higher, and the Italians, not really. So they're now able to out DPM these Italian destroyers just through their volume of shells. The Italians, well, yes, if they still get most of their shells on target, they can give them a running chance. But man, you're talking about getting every single shell on target, every single salvo, and not missing a single shell. Whereas of course, the Fletcher, the Gearing, or the Daring that you're having to fight is just a bullet hose. And they can afford to miss, like 30% of their shots and still be absolutely melting you down. And you can't even miss like a single shell, or you're just done at that point. So the Regolo, I guess you could include the tier 9 and the tier 8 in here too. They do need a bit of a reload buff at this tier. Again, I'm not talking about making it into like a Forged Sherman with the sap, but just maybe like a 1 second, 1.5 second buff, something like that, to give them just a little bit more of an edge at this tier. Because again, you really don't see too many Regolos being played. You might see one every now and then, but it is an exceptionally rough ship to play. I love playing run and gun DDs. I love playing DDs that can test the cap and fight other DDs, but this is one that I don't really enjoy playing because, again, it's so easy to screw up and you're just getting, melted down by the bullet hose DD, and, it's miserable. Maybe that, or they could give it a small heal or something to allow it to stay in the fight and get more shells on target. I know these destroyers already have a large amount of HP, but that's another way they could go if they don't want to buff the reload time of the guns. That's something that they could potentially do instead. That, or maybe give it some saturation gimmick like the French. But again, that's a really gimmicky way of going about doing it, rather than giving it a small heal or an increased reload. Just something like that would help make the Regolo and the other higher tier Italian DDs just a little bit more comfortable to play. And keep in mind, these things absolutely dumpster at mid tier. Like from tier 4 to tier 7, these DDs are amazing. They do the opposite of what many lines do, where like the mid tiers are just a painful grind, and then you get to the high tier and they're great. It's the opposite with the Italian DDs. So yeah, just a little bit of love there, and then you'd have an absolutely excellent destroyer line through and through. So, yes, give my meatballs some more spice, wargaming. Alright, going down to number 2, speaking of mid-tier ships, we have the mid-tier Dutch cruisers. I don't know if you guys have played these things yet, but they are pretty miserable. And the higher tier ones aren't much better by any stretch of the imagination. The guns aren't that accurate. The ships kind of just get absolutely nuked out of the water. So these guys need quite a bit of love, of love. Maybe some buffs to their heals, or some heals for the one that don't have any. A little bit of accuracy buff to their guns, or some reload buffs to their guns. Just anything could help these guys out. Like the Johann really is where the line gets comfortable, and that's the tier 9. Alright. I was playing these things a lot when they were coming out, because of course, you get the new airstrike consumable. The Dutch are getting their own tech line, which was really weird because I thought they were going to be tossed into the European tech line, and in fact the Groningen, which is just a copy paste of I can't, the destroyer's name is escaping my brain right now, but yeah, that ship was in the Pan-Euro tech tree. Then they were going to throw it in the Dutch tech tree, but people didn't like that, so they had to make a copy and paste version of the ship. But anyway, yeah, so they need just a nice hug from Wargaming. It's one of the more miserable lines to play through. Imagine like Italian battleships pre all the changes and buffs they got over the years. That's what the Dutch cruisers are still at in their mid-tier grind. They're very explodey. The guns, because they're usually heavy cruisers, they have a longer reload time, and they aren't that accurate, and they don't have the nice HE and fire chance that the higher tier ones have. It's like, man, the Golden Moon and the Johann, they kind of just look at ships and they catch on fire, but that doesn't really happen with the mid-tier ships in the Dutch line. So, yep, a really miserable grind, right down there at the bottom of my most enjoyable ships to grind list. Like, we're talking, again, like almost at the bottom of that list. They sucked to try and get through. But I guess, they got to try and balance that airstrike back in the day. But again, in the days of Warships, that's not even really that bad. So, yep, my Dutch boys need some love, Wargaming, so if you wouldn't mind giving them a hug, that would be most appreciative. Alright, coming down to number 1, we have the Tier 5 Premium American Battleship, the Texas. It is beyond time for the Texas to get a buff in compensation for what was done to her. If you don't know, Texas back in the day was the AA ship from Tier 5 to Tier 8. She had the best AA. And even compared to Tier 8 ships, she could give them a run for her money. And we're talking about Tier 8 AA ships back in the day. Back when AA was, you could build into it and have an absolute no-fly zone around your ship. Now, if you look at Texas's AA stats, she still does have really good AA, but they've absolutely murdered the range. She's gone from having, I think you could get it out to 7 kilometers? I think 6 kilometers with the modules back in the day, to now they had to unify, they wanted to unify the AA range with the nations by their tier to 3.5 kilometers. So within that 3.5 kilometers, her AA is really good, but no CV really stays within 3.5 kilometers of a ship unless they have a, they have a death wish. So what happens is, the enemy CVs come in, they drop their ordnance on you, they fly away, you maybe get a plane or two, which is more than other Tier 5 AA ships do. But in order to balance her out for this back in the day, what they did was they nerfed her main battery reload time. So on her 10 14-inch guns, she has a 34-second reload time. Compare that to her sister, the New York, the Tech Line, with a 30-second reload time. So she has a 4-second nerf to her reload because of her AA that was God tier back in the day, but it's no longer God tier, it's just like slightly above average at Tier 5. So, yeah, that doesn't make sense, especially nowadays when she got that huge nerf to her AA range. Now, I could see maybe not dropping it all the way down to 30 seconds, but maybe 31, 32, something to where she's, pretty competitive. But no, she's just been stuck where she's at for the past, the CV rework was 8.0. We're about to be in, we are in 12.4, about to be in 12.5. So that's 4 full patch cycles ago, and she hasn't received any love whatsoever. And keep in mind that even if they did drop her reload down to 30 seconds, you would have a New York with slightly better AA, and that's it. It's not exactly a broken ship. So, long overdue, needs to happen, and this is a real still historical ship that the Texas herself, she's in dry dock right now, finally getting what she deserves. So Wargaming, it's finally time to give the digital Texas what she deserves as well, and give her buff that's long overdue. And keep in mind, this is a premium ship that players bought for one reason, well, probably one reason, her amazing AA, and then that asset about her got nerfed into the dirt and has been changed in the past 4 patch cycles. So yeah, long overdue there in my opinion. So guys, let me know what you guys think about the list. Include any ships that you think need some love as well from Wargaming in the comments down below. Let me know what you would add to the list. Let me know what you would remove from the list in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be at 50,000 subscribers thanks to you guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful Monday and a wonderful rest of your week. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.